conjunction with the Center for Social Impact, the housing communities hosted 10 students through a variety of pre-departure workshops where we learned about different issues that affect the recovery efforts from Hurricane Katrina.
The takeaway was that as volunteers in an area stricken by such a catastrophe, we would have to be respectful of both the environment and the people we were interacting with, and also engage in something that we learned about was called fair trade learning.
One conversation that we had was reframing the way that we think of ourselves when we come down there, not as volunteers who expect gratitude from the communities that we're helping, but rather as student learners. During spring break, we finally went to New Orleans.
We took a bicycle trip around the 9th Ward. There was a tour guide and he talked to us about various sites and spots, their history.
In a geography/mapping class that we had before, we talked about how different elevations affected the way that different parts of the communities of New Orleans recovered from Hurricane Katrina. And it was really interesting to see that elevation change occur as we kind of biked across the lower ninth and see where a couple inches below sea level could result in massive amounts of flooding.
During the week, we partnered with lower9.org, which was a great organization that helps rebuild houses in the lower 9th Ward and helps to bring back homeowners who were pushed out after Hurricane Katrina.
So we have small to medium-sized groups of typically unskilled volunteers who plug in at every level of the rebuild process, from the pouring of the foundation to the finished carpentry, and train up on the job under the supervision of crew leaders.
You can see the water damage. I think they were telling us when this house was flooded, it went all the way up to the roof. What we've been doing is just cutting plywood, nailing it back up there. So there's a lot of action to correct work that's been done that hasn't been done right. It's kind of crazy just seeing the impact and the extent of the damage that's been done to this house, and just thinking about how this happened in 2005, over a decade ago, and there's still houses that are in this state.
As we've discovered in communities of low wealth, like the lower 9th Ward, those barriers and impediments to recovery are more keenly felt. They have an expression in our field. They say disasters don't discriminate, which I think is arguable. Disasters don't discriminate, recoveries do. And that has been our reality.
Our Dartmouth group was split into 2 teams, and we both worked on 2 different houses.
We didn't renovate the whole house, we just barely did a wall, but it took so much time.
I thought we would be doing more minimal work, but not at all. I didn't think they were going to trust us to do anything else, but we were dealing with saws, nail guns.
We also had to prepare the boards and stuff, so we had to paint them, we had to cut them.
So we've been talking a lot with Henry, who is the next door neighbor. He owns a couple properties, or takes care of a couple properties around here. And it's actually really fun to be talking to him because he's able to give us a lot of history of the house and the neighborhood. And he also talks to us about just bigger picture stuff about race and home ownership and just being kind to others.
When I have a home, I'm gonna try to do all of my repairs on it because of the amount of what I did and how it felt good.
I think it's really important that Dartmouth has these trips every year so we can build that relationship with the organizations.
We were able to make a material change in someone's life, and although we didn't completely fix the house, we were able to kind of finish a project. It's hopefully lasting work that the homeowner can use to build upon with other volunteer crews and have a functioning home to live in a couple of years.
It was actually really interesting because I made friends that I would never make friends out of that.
I definitely got to know a lot more people in my house.
Everyone had a story to share about the trip with someone else, something they had been through together.
Because of the work that we put in and the thought that we put in before going on the trip itself, I think that was one of the key reasons why the trip was so meaningful for me.